Why are more and more hikers, backpackers, and thru hikers making the switch from hiking boots over to trail running shoes? Hi folks, it's Switchback. When it comes to footwear for the time that you're out on the trail, you have a few different options. First and most traditional, you have hiking boots, some of which are more turbo than others. Then you have a low boot or a hiking shoe, which is basically like an ankle height boot that doesn't have the raised bit. And then you have trail running shoes, and then you have sandals. For a long time, the only option you had was a hiking boot, unless you wore running shoes or other types of shoes that were not designed for the trail. In 1984, Nike made the very first trail running shoe called the Escape. It was not carried in very many stores because there just wasn't much of a market for it. And so it quickly went into oblivion until the late 1980s when Nike tried a couple of other models. Trail running really wasn't much of a thing outside of ultramarathoners, and outdoor stores didn't carry any running stuff because they were considered two completely separate markets. Adventure racing started to become popular in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and shoe companies decided to start making models that were able to handle the varied activities of adventure racing. By the early 2000s, there were lighter and less durable options available for less rugged terrain, gravel roads, and then there were heavier and more rugged models designed to handle more technical terrain, often weighing up to a pound apiece. 2005 brought about the first models that we would recognize as trail running shoes, Brooks Cascadia and the La Sportiva Slingshot. Since then, there have been a variety of iterations of minimalist, maximalist, and zero-drop shoes, with trends coming and going. Trail running shoes are still really in their infancy, but because of their growing popularity, shoe companies are starting to devote more of their budget to developing and improving models. With the growing popularity of trail running and trail running shoes, people started using them for hiking, and that has increased the market for these shoes. Incidentally, in that time, our backpacks have become significantly lighter. Very few people are still toting around the 60 or 70 pound backpacks that you might have seen in the 70s and 80s, and something like that would necessitate a boot. There are many reasons why hikers and backpackers are making the switch and why they love trail running shoes so much. First of all, they're much more lightweight, especially compared to hiking boots. They're often much more comfortable. Most people, myself included, report fewer blisters. They rarely require much breaking in. They dry faster and drain better. They're generally cooler in hot weather, and many designs nowadays have a wider toe box than most boots. Now, if I've missed a reason why you love trail running shoes, drop it in the comments below, along with the models that have worked best for you. As trail running shoes have evolved, they've become better and better at handling the challenging terrain that is out on these trails. And I know for myself personally, I feel a lot more stable when I can feel the ground underneath me. And since making the change over to hiking, or from hiking boots over to trail running shoes, I've done a hike in hiking boots and I felt way less stable when I couldn't feel, for example, rocks underneath my feet when I was crossing a creek. Some people would argue that they want the ankle support of a boot. Now, if you're wearing lighter footwear, you're less likely to need extra ankle support in the first place. But it also turns out that that high ankle on a hiking boot doesn't necessarily provide as much ankle support as a lot of people like to think it does. And something like a trail running shoe is going to help you to strengthen your ankles so that if you do turn one, you're going to be able to recover from it better. And frankly, you'll be less likely to turn an ankle, especially with, again, if you can feel the ground underneath you, it's a lot easier to keep your balance. There's also something to be said for the lightweight nature of them. You may have heard a pound on your feet is equal to 5 on your back, and it is true that wear and tear on your body makes a big difference. And so when you have on lightweight footwear, that means you're able to go further and faster. And this is especially important to someone who is doing a thru hike, but even everyday hikers and backpackers can enjoy the same benefit. A lot of us like to wear gaiters with our trail running shoes, and if you're wearing a boot, you're going to need something more like this, versus with a trail running shoe, you'll need something like this. And this is going to keep your legs a lot hotter than this is going to. Now this one is really designed for also waterproofing, which is not at all what this one is designed for, but they'll both keep the rocks and sticks and stuff like that out of your socks and shoes. The biggest downfall to a trail running shoe is that it isn't going to last as long as a boot. Point blank. The other downsides can very well be applied to most boots. Unless you're buying insulated boots, they're not going to protect you very well in very cold weather. Even waterproof shoes and boots are going to wet out unless you're wearing a mountaineering boot or a winter boot or even a work boot. Then those ones are going to be the only ones that are really going to keep out the water entirely. But most boots, I can tell you from having a few pairs of Merrell Moabs, they will wet out. Plus, the sweat can't escape very well, and they tend to get hotter. In more breathable options, your feet will get dirty. You will absolutely have dirt around your toenails and in between your toes, for sure. And trail running shoes and most boots don't work with crampons, but they will work with microspikes. Now, that said, very few of us are scaling glaciers and doing the kinds of things that would necessitate a crampon, but in that case, you're probably also not necessarily looking to wear a trail running shoe. Now, if you are unsure what to look for in a trail running shoe, then be sure to check out this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.